Good afternoon. It's pretty exciting to be here today with my small cards, which I can't read, but I'll do everything from memory. It's exciting to be here because you don't often get an opportunity to really talk about the future of work and bring that into the perspective of what you really believe in and how I can help you to talk about the best kept secret of machines that don't work. And how does it work? There you go. How to deal with the best kept secret. You can still spend your time, effort on to make sure you are prepared for what is to come related to the future of work. And I believe the things that James has just said are right. I also believe that's the way the company I work for, Philips, but also the company, many companies around us believe that the world will evolve like that, will have the same particular view. Maybe not on the view on compassion, I'll get back to that, but the best kept secret of how to deal with the future of work, I hope to share with you, and hopefully out of the many people here in the room, if only 4 to 5 of you will be impacted by that and prepare better for the future of work, then I feel I have achieved my goal. So work is changing. And it's not the first time that it's changing. We used to have craftsmanship where you would be a shoemaker and then you would do everything from measuring a customer's feet to making final alterations to his shoes. And, you know, we really focused on outcomes, and you had that in every single profession. Until we decided we can manufacture it faster, we can manufacture it cheaper, maybe we can use different people to design these shoes, we can distribute them, ship them faster, etc. And everything started to change. So we really started to segment and to specialize. Jobs became a collection of tasks, and you were better at this, and you were better at that, and that's where you decided to specialize in, and over time, because this started in sort of 1780s, what your father did and specialized in, you started to do, etc. So this evolved over time. But it really changed the conception of work. And now, 2019, we're up on the 4th industrial revolution already. And if you start to Google this, or whatever search engine that you use, you get over 50 million responses, which, you know, tell you everything from really scientific articles to sensationalist views on the robot apocalypse, which is coming. But I believe, next to that, I believe that anything that also what James talked about the artificial intelligence, the robotics piece that is now really hot and also happening and embraced by the companies that I work and represent, and I represent. Also automation. I believe the heart of the 4th industrial revolution is really human. It's of course about the technology, but for us, it's about the way we work with technology, which is important. It's how we embrace the technologies and make sure in the way we work, technology plays a role. So, what I believe in, and you know, with all the colleagues that I have around the world, but also the networks that I share, what we believe is that work and technology, again, it's humans who work with technology. Technology will take, currently, for what we can foresee, about 10% of what we do today. It's usually what we find boring, irrelevant, but it's often demanding as well. It gives us a huge amount of stress. And to be honest, technology, also to James's point, can often do it better. They simplify things for us automatically. They learn faster from their mistakes than we do. They improve the processes or the tools or whatever we are in, they improve it for us in an instant. It's like this, the example of the self-driving cars. They instantly improve what we will not improve because we think this part of our role is boring, dull, and irrelevant. So we're not going to do it. But what does it leave us? If that percentile goes away, and you can differ, is it 10, 15 or more, whatever, but roughly 10, it leaves us to the part where we, with our talents, where we are uniquely suited for, to focus on the higher value added parts of roles. The higher added value parts which are better connected to our talents as humans. And I still believe that robots will, at least not for now, replicate human behavior as good as we do it. So we have a unique ability to use our intuition. We have a unique ability for creativity. It's hard to duplicate by machines, at least now. We are far more interpersonal, and jobs are becoming far more interpersonal. Empathy and problem solving. You know, we are creating new industries. And if you look carefully, if you do the math on it, all the industries that we create, which we as consumers, as patients or as students, whoever you are, if you look at them, we all see that these new industries make experiences for us much more personal. They focus on the personal side of how they interact with you as consumers or students or patients. And the robotics piece, the artificial intelligence piece, the automation piece is there. It's super irrelevant, and it makes these experiences for us more pleasurable. But the part where we are most exposed to is the human touch part. Now, by creating these new industries, and artificial intelligence, robotics, and automation taking off us parts of the role that we do, I believe that we will not lose out on jobs. There will be jobs for all of us. As a matter of fact, studies, and most studies, if you accumulate all of them and look at the common denominator, out of every one role we lose to robotics and automation and artificial intelligence, we gain 1.7 roles for all of us. So there's going to be plenty. As a matter of fact, in all of these roles, where there's plenty, you're not replaced by the technology. You're working with the technology. And also to James's point, you don't have to be a technologist to be able to understand and to be able to work with the technology. You don't need a 4-year degree for that. We all have it. Now, if you look at how do we prepare ourselves for that, we are starting to get to the problem, because we're basically not preparing ourselves for it. Companies, although we still spend over $360 billion on training and learning and development globally, we still don't spend enough. Countries don't spend enough on skill training, not on the skill training that we need. So the human touch skills, the empathy, development of empathy, how do you recognize it? The interpersonal skills, the problem solving, the creativity, or problem solving, the complex problem solving. And to James's example on judges, I believe there will be lawyers and judges. But imagine you're a judge who deals with children. So how do you then decide if you have a child sitting opposite to you who's been in trouble for most of his life, troubled parents, troubled situations, he's done this and that again? Are you going to send him to jail for rehab, or are you going to place him at a foster parents? What's the best thing to do if you look at the child? There's no doubt there will be algorithms for that. I believe that's a complex problem solving you need to do with a huge amount of empathy and compassion. It's hard to replace for now. But we're not prepared for it. We have a roughly 3 billion people working today. There's also estimations that there's 3.5, but let's keep it at 3. And if you look at the human touch jobs, we still lack right now about 82 million skilled workers, and we're not preparing ourselves for it. Companies are not doing it. Countries are not doing it. As a matter of fact, 42% of managers, leaders, CEOs of companies, still believe that no matter what their strategy is, the talent shortage affecting this is not there. 9% of companies say they are really prepared with a recruiting strategy and a talent development strategy to be able to deal with this shortage. That's a problem. And we are all changing as well, right? The way you have decided as a generation to work is also different. You're going to work in the nomad economy. So you're going to be freely browsing around jobs and experiences, moving from one experience to the next, taking sabbaticals in between, going world travel, etc. And I'm saying, go for it. I'm all for that. Although, I've done it differently, I'm all for it. Please go do it. But it's different. It's different. And you always have to prepare yourself for the next step. So there's no corporate ladder. Let's start in the middle. There's no corporate ladder, right? So sometimes if you want to have an experience, what you have to do is take another experience first and take some time out to learn the new skill that is needed before you can make any move towards the skill that you'd really like to be in, to have the experience that you want. And sometimes you have to make an upward move, a diagonal move, or a downward move. It's not a corporate ladder, it's more like a jungle gym, actually. Then there's no traditional job tenure. Millennials, so people born between 1982 and 2000, already spend less than 3 years in a job. They're switching roles faster than they switch their cars, really. So it's super fast. And you're going to be part of that as well. As a matter of fact, the prediction is that you're going to rotate even faster. And there's no fixed awards, something like that. Right now, the current workforce in the last 10 years, let's say the decade, has been used to an average 1 to 2% of salary increase over time. I know you're thinking you're going to make more, but over time it's 2%. There's nothing like that at all in this new nomad economy. You're either going to jump to an experience at a company which is different, which is going to get you a 20% pay rise. After 3 years, you start to hate it. You're going to take a sabbatical, or you're going to go with your wife, girlfriend, kids on a VW camper in the US, driving for 4 months, which you should do. It's an awesome experience. But then you're going to spend your time as well learning a new skill while you're doing that, because you need that for your next experience. And at the same time, you also need to network globally and across functionalities, because companies will be also aligning themselves to this story. They will be finding mechanisms like artificial intelligence and robotics and automation to find out who you are. Take LinkedIn. And although there's a shortage of work, the best companies are going to figure out exactly where you are. And if you are on that camper, in the VW camper somewhere with your kids, driving in that desert somewhere, they're going to place a phone call. They're going to find you. So we're making the change in technology, and it's super rapid. Every day, you'll wake up, it's different. And you know that James made that point very clearly. At the same time, the way we work also changes. And I'm not sure if it's a good thing right now. Already what we're seeing is that 25% of all employees view their job, the job they're in today, as the number one stressor in their lives. As a matter of fact, the World Health Organization calls this currently the current big health epidemic, right? So it's a problem. 82.6% of every employee assistance program companies have altogether combined is about stress and burnout. And it's up from 50% just a couple of years ago. So you see how fast that's growing. So you're going to enter into a stressful environment. So my question to you is, are you ready for this? So who believes that this pace of change will diminish over time? Raise hands. Nobody. Who believes that it will actually go up rapidly in the same pace? Right? Lots of hands. Who believes that we will also naturally evolve as humans in a mental capacity to be able to deal with all of this change? Who believes that? Very few hands. I have the same. I feel the same. So just take 2-3 seconds to look around you and look at the people next to you, look people behind you. Just look around. Right? Sorry, how do I go back? Like this. 3 out of 4 of you will suffer from a lifestyle-related chronic disease like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and food disorder, or burnout, depression, etc., anxiety. 3 out of 4. So this will happen. Right now, burnout is taking 50% of all the mental cases is about burnout in the world because we're not prepared. And burnout is an inflammation caused by negative stress responses build up over time. Right now, 86% of our global healthcare costs are related to these lifestyle-related chronic diseases or mental health. Only in the US alone, $300 billion is spent on healthcare costs related to work-related issues, which is associated with 190 billion healthcare costs to be able to deal with all of that. So not only is it the business costing a lot of money, the healthcare cost is also astronomical. And just put it into perspective, it takes $2 billion to make sure every citizen of the world, no matter where, has access to clean water. It takes $30 billion to make sure we end world hunger. And we're spending $190 billion just in the US alone to fix this, because we are not prepared yet to deal with the mental capacity needed to be able to deal with all this technology change. And it's predicted that the cost of business to deal with the rate of speed of technology changes will be 16 trillion by 2030. That's a lot of money, and we need to prepare for it. So how do I sum this up? To use this quote from E.I. Wilson. So the real problem with humanity is the following. We have prehistoric emotions because we have not invested in them. Medieval institutions, like all businesses are, with organization, charts, things like that. It's medieval. And godlike technology. We're drowning in information while starving for wisdom. But the good news, because I know I use dark slides, but I don't want to have a dark message. There is hope, and there is a lot of hope. There's a lot we can do about this. What you're looking at is a microscopic view of your brains. So these are neurons and neurotransmitters and synapses that we train. We train them through experiences, through experience with our parents, with work, the way we study, what happens right in front of us. We train them. We train them with how we spend our time on it. And usually what we do is we have fight or flight responses, right? So imagine that you have a car coming at you, or in the old days you have to have a saber-tooth tiger coming at you. And then fight or freeze, where your muscles tighten and your blood pressure goes up, you're ready to jump, and that's a good response. That keeps you safe. Our problem is that right now, with all the impactful changes that we have, particularly related to work, our brains cannot tell the difference between a saber-tooth tiger coming at you and an angry email that you get from somebody, from a customer, or a boss hanging over your desk shouting at you abrasively. Our brains cannot tell the difference. But we can train this. We can train ourselves, and you as students or young entrepreneurs or young business leaders or older business leaders, whoever you are, you can train your mind, your brain, to be able to deal with everything that is being thrown at you in an accelerated pace in a new world, the nomad economy, where we all work in. You can train your brain to be able to deal with it, to make sure that you don't end up to be one of those 3 people out of 4 that suffers from a lifestyle-related chronic disease or mental illness. So, a fearless response to compassion, what is it? A fearless response to distress. I'm talking about compassion. The thing that I might differ a little bit with James on that is that I believe compassion is currently still really a skill that's with humans. So it's really about empathy in action, right? It's knowing how you feel, how the other person feels, and then to be able to deal with it. So basically it tells you, if you are under stress, what's the best mechanism to lower your stress levels is to go out and help somebody else. I know what you're thinking. I'm on deep levels of stress. How the heck do I, how does helping somebody else help me to reduce my stress level? And that's interesting. And then you get into the biology of compassion, which is an activation of your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the opposite system that takes care of your fight or flight response, right? So if you are compassionate about yourself or somebody else, you help yourself or you help other people, what happens is 3 amazing hormones or neurotransmitters kick in. First one is oxytocin. That's our love and care hormone or neurotransmitter, right? We feel love, we feel cared for. It's the same hormone or neurotransmitter that kicks in when a mother delivers a baby. The first time she holds that baby, that's that super feeling of love and care. But it also strengthens in the neurotransmitter side our ability to feel cared for. In my work as HR and also coach, where I deal most of the time with even extremely successful people, is to say, I do this, I do this, that. I'm successful, I have everything, I just don't feel it. I get recognition from everybody tells me I'm great, my kids love me, my boss loves me, everybody loves me. I just don't feel it. So I don't feel recognized. And I can spend hours and hours and hours with them on sort of how do you feel recognized. But they need to program themselves differently. They need to be able to be spending time to become more compassionate as a worker, as a leader, to be able to develop this neurotransmitter. And they can. Second is the dopamine. This is our feel-good hormone. This makes us fearless. This makes us motivated to go into action, right? This is what we need. You have it with Parkinson's disease, treatments, etc. Parts of the dopamine treatment help because they feel more fearless, more motivated, and they have more energy, right? But you can train this hormone, you can train this neurotransmitter. And the last one is serotonin, which makes us really, really smart. This is the hormone or the neurotransmitter that makes sure that whenever there is a problem, if you develop that neurotransmitter, hormone in your body, you come up with the right problem to that complex solution to this complex problem. Really interesting, I think. So, how do you train it? And this is the part where you usually think, it's about meditation and mindfulness. This is the attention economy we are living in. Everything is asking our attention. So we have what we call the monkey mind, right? If we're at work, we think of a friend. If we're with a friend, we think of our family. If we're with a family, we think of our work. We always think of something else. What we do and what we think about is always different. Harvard's done a study with 2,500 people. They gave them phones and with an app on it, and they called them at random times. What are you doing? It's with two questions. What are you doing? And what are you thinking about? Now guess when people were most focused. Any suggestions? People were most focused when they were making love, having sex. I have no idea how they would pick up the phone, but they were the most focused. They were least focused when they were either commuting, working, or behind the mobile device. The least focused. And you don't train your mind to be focused and to be the most focused person in the room, in the meeting room you're going to be in, at the company you're going to join, if you don't start training your brain now. And next, related also to mindfulness, and mindfulness is really about how you focus your attention. Even if you do sweeping the floor or walking, running, whatever you do. If you're mindful, you've learned to focus on that which you're doing, which is important. And people really, spend more and more time on mindfulness and meditation. And if it's still this goofy concept for you, start waking up. If you want to deal with all of the changes in technology, in the nomad economy which you're going to be part of, you better start time focusing on this. So, are companies doing this? Yes. And there's a lot of companies that I've not put on this slide, but big companies are spending time for their employees on this. As a matter of fact, if you go on Glassdoor, which is a tool you can go to figure out what's this company about and what type of questions they ask on sort of recruiting and interview tips and tricks. How's the CEO looking like? What does he make? And how is the leadership style in the company? If you go on there, what you find is that the recruiters also track the time you spend on meditation and mindfulness, if you've been active in it. Do you have later in artificial intelligence? I'm sure there will be tracks to subscriptions to yoga center, meditation centers, mindfulness type of tools and techniques that you've been using, I'm sure. But these companies are providing it. So this moves away from the third industrial revolution where we start to throw in free food and free granola bars and crocodiles in your office, and you can work from home, and any crazy idea to have cleaning services, all good. But now that's all the new normal, right? We're moving on. So they're doing it. So if you're not taking it seriously, they are. So what's really in it for you? So over time, if you spend time and your effort on this meditation and mindfulness, your stress level will go down, because ultimately what you try to do with mindfulness is you focus your attention, you have less stress, which means that your negative stress response, which you build up over time, and which you cannot ventilate, will no longer be there, because you have, in the moment, you can train yourself to be attentive to the person right in front of you. You can learn in the moment to be attentive to the people that you lead, and you don't build up a stress response when you are in this super high intensity project with tight deadlines and a screaming boss and a shouting customer at you, which hopefully you will not tolerate, right? Your resilience goes up, so you will be able to be much more resilient against all the negative stress response from other people around you. You will be the most focused person in the room in all the chaos and disruption you have around you. Your immunity level goes up, less sick, less feeling cold and chilly after this test you've been doing, this test you've been learning for, or this project you had to finish, and it's finished and it's great, aha, and 3 days later, you say, I start to feel this cold, etc. It's still relating to that stressful moment of meeting that target. If you're more mindful during that project, you will be more immune, and your inflammation will be less. Inflammation, burnout. You will have severely less chance to run into a burnout. And what's also important is that, and that's related to habit loops, we're triggered and wired for a certain response if something happens, which creates a trigger, which creates a routine on the way you respond to that normally. And what you do with meditation and mindfulness, if you're more focused and in the moment, you're actually able to interrupt that habit loop. Something triggers you, you're able to take a breath, think about what you're feeling, think about what's a wise reaction to what's happening right now, and then take the reaction. That's an important habit loop for you to break. So, my belief is that if you're a mindful leader, if you're a compassionate leader, you will be the person in the room who is focused, even in the world of chaos and disruption. You will not have tunnel vision. You will be mindful of the people around you. You will be the person who will be ethical in making decisions because you know the impact of your influence or the decision that you'll take on these people. And I'm sure you'll make better decisions for yourself, you'll make better decisions for your business, and you'll make better decisions for the planet. Thank you for listening.